his inability to succeed in the mission that Noah had sent the dove on. And so the dove waits, anxious to see what Noah will do. And as the Netziv points out, Noah understands and can tell right away, for there is no dry land in the dove's claws. Noah can tell right away that the dove failed. And rather than judge the dove harshly, rather than hold the failure against the dove, rather than take out his anger at the fact that there was no dry land to be had after having been in the ark for so long, Noah reaches out in love and compassion and brings the dove in. As the Netziv says, how awesome is Noah really? And it's a fair lesson, and one for all of us to contemplate. For we are surrounded by people who constantly fail us. It has to be. We are human. And as amazing as that potential that resides within us is, we are still flawed. We are still all just trying to make our way in a world so much of which we have no control over. And so people around us, like the dove, will fail. They will fail us constantly. As I would point out, we fail others as well. And we have a choice. How do we respond to that failure? Since I'm going to go out on a limb here, pardon the pun, and say that most of the times that people fail us, it's not their fault, it's not their intent. Oftentimes the failures that people bring to our doorstep for the things that we ask are things that are beyond their control, either because of the way the world is set up externally, or because of their own demons and own struggles internally. And we have a choice, just like Matthew spoke of. We have a choice how to respond to them. We can respond in judgment at their failure. That is a natural one, and one that most of us take instinctually. But we can choose a different path. We can rise like Noah and choose the path of compassion as our response. And rather than keep at arm's length those who have failed us on the things that we have asked or desired, we can bring them in with love. And what do we gain by this? Is it in or to our advantage to do so? I would say absolutely. Think how the person who has failed feels. Think of where they're coming from. Think of how low they might be at that moment, how dejected, how down and hard on themselves they might be. We can reinforce those negative feelings by judging them. Oh, thanks a lot, but thanks for nothing, we might say. Or we can lift them up with understanding and words of kindness. And think of how we ourselves might feel if we but extend ourselves emotionally in kindness and love and compassion rather than judgment. Think of how that might lift us up. For to judge is to separate ourselves out. To judge is to exclude. Sure, it makes us feel good. There's a momentary rush when you judge someone, because if you're judging them negatively, it tends to be because you feel so very positive about yourself at that moment. We get high, if you will, off of putting others down, because it helps raise our own souls up. But that high is but a momentary rush, and it passes quite quickly. Whereas the embrace of someone who feels down not only lifts them, but it lifts us as well. We benefit from being kind to others, for it allows us to tap within the best of ourselves. It makes us realize that we are not alone, that we're not cut off, that we're not disconnected and discrete units just wandering around on this planet. On the contrary, we are connected to all and everyone around us. And in our moments of compassion, in the failure of others, we once again renew that sense of connectedness and grow stronger from it, not weaker. In looking at creation, our rabbis teach that God's first plan for creation was to create it along the lines of the quality of justice. However, God realized very soon that the world simply could not stand if justice was the only way that the world worked, if that was the only guiding quality. For every deed, large or small, would immediately receive its punishment, would receive an automatic response, and a negative one at that, thereby limiting our ability to grow, limiting our free will, limiting our ability to develop. And therefore, God, realizing that the world could not stand on justice alone, God rebooted the world, as we see in this week's Torah portion. Rebooted the world, held on to the quality of justice, as we see in the immutable laws of nature. Put your hand in the fire, and no matter how good you are, no matter how righteous you are, no matter how pure your intent, your hand's going to get burned. That is justice still in the world. But God also introduced the quality of rachamim, of compassion, and understood that if the world were to survive, if the world were to stand, it would require both justice and compassion. Our challenge is, friends, that in our desire for a just world, for what we think of as fair, we sometimes are off balance in our relationships with people around us, and I suspect do not bring in enough love and enough compassion. But as the rabbis teach us, compassion is one of the foundational qualities of this universe. Without it, the universe doesn't stand. Without it, our lives cannot stand. Because our friends, our relatives, our near and dear, our loved ones, our co-workers, everyone, at some point in time, will fail on the mission that we have set for them. And they will fail repeatedly. It won't be a one-time thing. Let me just warn you now. And we can let our world fall apart, or we can learn as God did, that the world needs an awful lot of compassion to remain intact. And in doing so, and in understanding life in this way, we both can rehabilitate Noah a little and see his greatness. And perhaps, just perhaps, if we take these words to our heart, we may rehabilitate our own lives as well. Shabbat Shalom.